Welcome back. Talk about a razor-thin margin. Take a look at this screen. This is a Real Clear Politics average of polls. Shows exactly what we mean when we say tonight is high stakes. Going in, the president and Governor Romney, and the average locked up at 47% nationally, separated by just 0.3%. The average there. Let's bring in our News Nation political panel. Democratic strategist, CNBC contributor David Goodfriend, also A.B. Stoddard, associate editor and columnist for The Hill, and nationally syndicated radio talk show host Steve Deace. Thank you for your time. So, Steve, we'll look at the polls here. Just want to go down the line of where the president is leading Governor Romney right now. He is ahead in all of the categories: the economy, taxes, health care, international affairs, Medicare. Romney is leading in the conversation regarding the deficit here. What does Romney need to do? What is the key to his message beyond showing the ability, as First Reed pointed out, which you've been skeptical as if he even has the ability to show this connection, this warmth that certainly people need during these hard times?
Well, Tamron, just to allude to what Chris Matthews said earlier, I'm happy to be the friendly neighborhood theocrat here on your panel this afternoon. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I think what Governor Romney needs to do is continue doing what he did in the last debate. And I'm very fascinated in the dynamic with this showdown because I don't think President Obama has had to be on the defensive a lot in his political career. I saw Mitt Romney in 2 presidential primaries in 2008 and 2012 not perform well when he's on the defensive. So I really think this whole thing tonight comes down to who is able to grab early momentum and put the other guy on the defensive. And I think it's impossible to predict who that will be because you have the unstable human element here with the town hall format and the questions from the actual voters. They will frame questions differently than media members will. They won't necessarily write the same premise to a question we in the media might. And I think this is absolutely a fascinating exercise. I think it's wide open and it's impossible to predict what will happen.
Well, David, I think that when people say the president has not faced or somehow try to measure the difficulties, listen, he went against the Clintons. They are, of course, team members now, but we were all here 4 years ago. That didn't just evaporate into air. You don't face Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and not come out a tougher person when you, in fact, win, and he did. So when you have conservatives and Republicans paint this picture of the president not having had his back against the wall, are they imagining or somehow erasing the memories of the last election?
Listen, I don't mind admitting to you that I was a Hillary Clinton supporter.
I know. I remember you from those years, of course.
And we all closed ranks behind our nominee, Barack Obama, and gladly so. But let's face it, man, he ran probably one of the most exquisitely executed campaigns in modern history, and he was taking on the standard bearers of our party, the Democratic Party, and he won rather decisively. So I don't buy into the notion that he's somehow not battle-tested. I actually would be a little bit worried if I were a Romney supporter right now going into this particular type of debate where empathy for the common person is going to be on display or lack thereof, because these are questions posed by audience members who are themselves undecided voters. And the question that the viewer inevitably will ask is, who among these two men is relating to the life situation of these individuals? And I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that the person who was raised by a single mother, whose grandfather was unemployed, who had student loans of his own to pay off just a few years ago, is going to be able to make that connection better than the guy whose daddy was a governor and a multimillionaire and was raised in a private school.
But David, in all fairness, not all wealthy people close their minds to the people who are in need. The Kennedys are not, you know, scraping pennies together, and certainly they are considered one of the most philanthropic families of all time. So just because your daddy was rich does not make you a bad guy.
No,
it's who you are inside. It's separate and apart from George Romney. It is who Mitt Romney is.
But Tamron, look, there are examples of very wealthy individuals who've become president and really empathize with people. I keep mentioning Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He had polio. He could relate to people who were down in their luck. Look, Jack Kennedy came from a wealthy family, but he too seemed to be able to connect. It's a problem for Mitt Romney. Everybody knows it. And so what I'm looking for going into this debate is whether or not he will be able to overcome that inherent shortcoming he just has as a candidate.
Let me bring AB in on this. Right now you've got this Gallup poll. We're going to talk with Mark Murray about why the Obama team has taken issue with this Gallup poll, but basically it shows that Mitt Romney would have closed an incredible gap among female voters, putting him just 1 percentage point behind the president. Chris Matthews and others have talked about the women's issues needing to be brought up in this debate. They were absent in the first presidential debate. Chris is saying Lilly Ledbetter, for example, even when we know when Romney's team was asked whether he supported or not that now infamous conference call where there was this silence regarding the answer. We'll get back to you, I believe, was the response when asked about Lilly Ledbetter. So you've got women watching tonight. First Read says that is the majority of the audience tonight that needs to be won over, that needs to be convinced. So if the pressure is on the president, he has the record according to his supporters. Now he's got to put the closing argument or the big sell for those female voters to solidly support him.
I know, Tamara, but that's the awkwardness of this sort of setup with the town hall where there's a limited engagement of the moderator and there's not follow-up, et cetera. So you have President Obama, maybe he's not asked tonight a question about from these non-committed voters who I think really don't like Obama or Romney at this point, a question about dependence on foreign oil or too much government spending. What if he's not asked a question about women's health issues and contraception? He's going to force a conversation in the middle of an immigration debate and try to pivot back because he's seen it as watch that he's running out of time to make this huge point. What the USA Today Gallup poll found yesterday, which was so interesting, is not only they're at parity with women, but that women find these women health issues far more important as voting priorities than we really understood so far in this campaign. So it is a huge opportunity for the president. I just don't know if he gets a chance to take it.
And that is a key point. I've got to ask you, Steve, Ross Perot has now put his endorsement or has endorsed Governor Romney, your home state. Des Moines Register, the paper in Des Moines wrote, where Ross Perot wrote, I should say, we can't afford 4 more years in which debt mushrooms out of control. Our government grows and our military is weakened. For the past 4 years, we've squandered one opportunity after the next to turn things around. The longer we delay acting, the steeper the price we will have to pay. Again, that is Ross Perot. And our First Read team says, yes, this is one rich man endorsing another rich man. And Perot's politics have been Republican leaning. But the issue Perot is best known for is the deficit. Does he lend any credibility to Mitt Romney, who his critics say has still been very vague and tonight may not close the door on some of these questions that people have regarding how he will attack the budget, the deficit, and what loopholes, for example, are still lingering that he would address?
No, I don't think it helps him at all. Yeah. I think Ross Perot's largely an irrelevant figure. Frankly, I think this endorsement's an attempt to grab some relevancy. Maybe the one hope that Ross would have in my home state is it's one of the oldest states in the country. So, maybe those people remember 1992, but for most of us, that seems like an age ago. In the end, it really comes down to which of these two men do you believe has a better plan that they can implement to get the country moving forward the next 4 years. I want to go back to something David said. I was not insinuating the president isn't battle tested. I don't know how you are president of the United States and not be battle tested. What I'm saying is certain men in certain situations thrive, I think, in certain situations better. I think when you're used to being the person that dictates the agenda, the alpha male, as both Barack Obama and Mitt Romney are, I think they're both better when they're on offense. You saw that in the last debate when Romney put Obama on defense. I really think this debate is going to come down to who can put the other person on defense first and ride that momentum. And I think you can't contrive it, Tamara. And I think it's going to have to come spontaneously from a question from the audience that turns the debate in your particular.
And Steve and David, and I want to quote what AB said. The unknown variable, though, here are the audience members. Yes. I can't talk about this enough. Velma Hart is going to come on. She's the woman 2 years ago at that debate who told the president, she was exhausted defending him, and she was just impassioned, made headlines because of what was seen as her honest assessment as someone who supported him. You don't know what the person in the audience, that everyday man or woman, is going to say in their question, how they're going to pose that question, David. And that's the variable that no pundit, no expert on air right now can determine before the question comes out of that individual's mouth.
Yeah, it's really true. And in fact, I forget exactly what debate this was, but it was in the 92 cycle, I think, when a man with a ponytail stood up and said, I feel like an abused child. And that guy the next day was lambasted by every commentator for asking that type of question. I don't think we can predict exactly what will happen, but I do believe this. In the DNA of each of these candidates is a life experience and a tendency to empathize or not. And it'll come across, whether they try to make it come across or not, it will come across if they let themselves show their emotions and show their own background and show their own feelings. I want to get back to something, though, with this Ross Perot endorsement. You know, Mitt Romney doesn't need Ross Perot. He needs a new calculator, because this is a guy who's standing up and saying, we're going to do a 20% tax cut and pay for it by closing loopholes. We now know those loopholes would only account for 4%.
Right.
What are you going to do with the rest of the 16%? The guy needs better numbers.
All right, we'll see if he breaks down numbers or reveals new information. Different information, according to the critics that he's been providing. Thank you very much, AB, Steve. It's a great pleasure. David, thank you as well. Coming up, the